How's it going, Sat?
Good. How are you?
With your offensive plans, how much, if any, did they have to change when Luke got hurt?
Obviously, they're going to change a little just because the mobility that Luke gave us. You know, he's a runner and a passer of the football. So, uh, from just a global standpoint, it didn't change a lot. But just how we're attacking practice, how we're attacking defense has changed when he's not out there with the ball.
What can you share with us with where Luke's at right now and what he's able to do?
He's got a big smile. I just had lunch with him. He's got a big smile on his face. He's working relentlessly every day, all day to get back as soon as he can. I mean, we got to make sure that everything is where it needs to be when he gets back, just so it doesn't linger. But he's in good spirits. He meets with us. He hasn't missed, position meetings or anything, so he's right on schedule with the installation situations. He watches practice. He's been a great teammate, and he just keeps doing what he's always done. And it's just being, an elite human, elite teammate, and just there to help. So he's moving along.
And what have you seen from Jason and the time that he's had to step up?
I think Jason's stepped up, and I think that he looks totally different than he did at the end of spring. I think, if you look at Jason's body, the work and commitment he put in to change his body, the summer he had, I thought he had a wonderful summer. He's allowed himself to have a little bit more mobility than he's ever had in his life. So you see him start to extend plays and create plays, and did that a couple times a day in 2 minutes. So we're really pleased with where he's going, and he's got a really, really good mindset right now, and he's at a good place.
Marcus, in terms of Zeb and getting him in the quarterback room, like what is kind of the plan for him in terms of getting him up to speed, and how do you kind of work through that with adding a guy at a couple of weeks short of the opener?
Well, the good thing is him and Danny Gordon, another former quarterback here, they did our playbook this summer. So Zeb's got to be one of the first guys who's going to be playing football who actually drew all the passes up in the playbook on the computer. So he's a coach's kid, and he's really, really smart, has high football intelligence. So he already knows our offense, and he's been around the block a time or two, and he's got the experience, and he's calloused up. So it's not been a really huge transition. It's just a matter of, instead of standing out there telling he's working with the wideouts, telling the wideouts where to line up and what routes to run, he's in the huddle calling a play now and throwing the ball to him.
What was his kind of day-to-day as a GA on the offensive side?
He would sit in the quarterback meetings every now and then with me, but he was working with Coach Stepp and the receivers, just because his knowledge of the passing game, and be able to have two minds in there and be able to, with a lot of receivers, you want to have two guys that can do that. So, he's really not skipped a beat. He knows the system pretty well.
You can ask if I'll please hold on the microphone so you can hear. Josh?
Regardless of when you tell everybody else, when do you want to know who you're going to start on September 4th so that you can start getting them the reps you want them to have?
As soon as possible. I think the remainder of this week into the weekend, the scrimmage, just the situations, how people are handling it, how we're getting out of the tempo of getting in and out of our huddles and our tempos is going to be crucial. Whoever does that the best. And again, we're not looking for someone to go out and try to win the Heisman Trophy. We're looking for someone to get the play and communicate the play and execute the play with good tempo and take care of the ball, and make sure that all the guys that we have, the skill guys that we have on our unit, are able to showcase their talents. And whoever does that the best is going to be, is going to play for us.
Would your drop dead date be game week, 10 days out in terms of y'all naming a starter and saying you're getting these reps?
Yeah, I mean I'm sure that Coach Beamer and I'll have many discussions about that. I want it done as soon as possible, as soon as someone separates himself enough to make that decision. And then, of course, Coach Beamer would be the one responsible for laying out that information.
Marcus, how realistic is it to think Zeb could come in just a few days ago out there practicing with the guys and potentially be a starter, in a couple of weeks?
It's potentially there. It's in the air. And I think, I didn't hear the specific words that Coach Beamer used, but this isn't something that Luke got hurt and we thought, wow, what should we do? And we thought of Zeb. Like, this has been in the works through conversation all the way back midsummer. Like, we have to create enough depth in that room for competition. One of the pillars of our organization is competition. And so the more that we can get, we are not where we need to be as far as the depth chart at that position right now. So, we were already talking about maybe, getting Zeb, making sure he was, if anything did happen or we did want to pull the trigger on this, he was ready to roll. And so he had been running, lifting some weights, and obviously he's very sharp. So he was already engaged in the offense. And he played 3 months ago or whatever it was.
Marcus, what did you learn from the quarterback position specifically in the offense as a whole in Saturday's scrimmage, and what do you want to see improve as you go into the one this weekend?
We've got to take care of the ball and value the ball. I think obviously any first scrimmage, everybody's playing. You're making sure people are getting good quality reps, so you get the evaluation of each kid or each young man. Moving in after the first, to answer your question, after the first scrimmage, we have to improve on executing our assignments and taking care of the football, and in short, don't beat ourselves. And I think, with a young offense at certain positions, especially the quarterback position, we rely heavily on our offensive line right now to control the mindset of our offense and the attitude of our offense. And I think that they're doing a really nice job. It's something that they've never had to do, so they're learning how to do it. And I think just from Saturday to today, at this very moment, they've made a huge step of owning the offense, and not from a mental standpoint, but just the attitude and the implementation of what our standard is when we're out there playing.
Marcus, do you guys consider Jason the number one right now? Is that fluctuating?
We don't really have a number one right now. I mean, they're all, him and Zeb and Colton and Connor, they're all getting, we're spreading out reps. Like, to answer your question, we have to get this done quick, and we've got to put them in competitive situations, rapid competitive situations now, and we don't have time to wait because we've got to figure out who that starter is going to be so they can move on and our offense can move on. We don't want to let it linger. If you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one, so we got to figure out who's going to be pulling the trigger, and when we do that, then we'll commit to that guy and just move straight ahead. But they're both, them and Colton and Connor are all for, fighting right now at this point.
And was EJ out there today?
Yes, EJ was there.
Two things for you. How realistic is it that Luke is ready for game one?
I don't know that. I know that he's fighting to rehab and everything right now, and he's doing that tirelessly. I have no clue, though. I mean, he's not out there practicing right now, so we're not going to do anything that puts him in danger of a lingering injury that lasts all year. We're going to make sure that he is healed up before we put him out there and let him go.
Jason mentioned it in his press conference, and you mentioned it earlier, just getting in better shape over the course of the summer. Is that something y'all recognized in the spring, that he needed to change his body a little bit, or how did that come about? Was that something that you had to encourage?
No, we encouraged it, and I think he felt it. Like, he came in, he was a little bit overweight, and he couldn't move. And I think at this level, especially in the SEC, you've got to be able to move in the pocket with these guys that are, the pass rushers and the speed on the field. You'll get swallowed up. So he made a commitment to it, and he's done a phenomenal job. And so I think he's reaping the rewards now of that hard work just in his play right now in practice.
Marcus, you've had guys as freshmen and Jacob or PJ or whoever run this system. Luke was in a position to do that too. Just as a young guy, and when you look at a quarterback to run this system, what are kind of the one or two or three things they have to understand or learn or be able to do in order to run this system successfully?
This sounds cliche, but they have to be able to take care of the football and value the football. They can't just be reckless with it and throw it up in the middle of the field, or the way the ball handling, whether it be exchange and reads and things of that nature. So just to have they could be young, but they got to have the maturity to take care of the football. The communication, they got to be able to communicate, and they got to be able to control the tempo. All the different tempos that we play with on offense, they've got to be able to execute those, whether they be slow or fast. And all those guys you mentioned did that at a high level, and I think these guys right now have all taken hold of it, and we're really not flinching. I'm really pleased with where they are.
Among your receivers, who's stood out the most to you so far during camp?
Say that one more time.
Among the receivers, who stood out the most?
DK, obviously. DK just works so hard. We're looking at, like, right now, I'm telling Steph, like, hey, get him these 3 or 4 plays in this 7-on-7, get him these 3 or 4 plays, because you got to pull him back. He goes 100 miles an hour on special teams, 100 miles an hour in team, 100 miles an hour in 7-on-7. Just his mindset and competitiveness and toughness right now is really, really cool to see. And, I think he's done a tremendous job. Josh Van has really risen up my ranks anyway from the spring to this point with just his mentality and work ethic and commitment to the game and commitment to special teams. We talk to these guys all the time, like, you have to play special teams in order to, just from the toughness and just the accountability for this football team. We need you on special teams, and those two they've attacked that 100 miles an hour. And I think that's really neat to see.
So I know DK wasn't taking a bunch of reps at quarterback, but now that Zeb's there, is he taking any more, or is he completely transitioned to the receiver role now?
No, he's always take, I mean, even early on, practice 3s, 4 or 5s, like he's always getting 1 or 2 reps a day. And then obviously that continues to grow and grow because he's a really good quarterback. I spent some time this summer watching his high school huddle and his game against Georgia a couple years ago when he wasn't supposed to play. Like, he's not just a receiver playing quarterback. We can put him in there and he can play quarterback. He can make throws. He can execute the offense. He stepped in the huddle the first day and called a play, and it was phenomenal. Just the demeanor, the presence, the control, everything. So, and I think him in that role just makes him an even better receiver. We talk about Randall Cobb. I think his sophomore year at Kentucky, all their quarterbacks got hurt. He had to go play quarterback for 7 games. And I think that really, helped him be a pro and helped his career moving forward. So we're excited to see how DK's role in this offense just keeps growing and growing and growing.
How many receivers do you need to have ready September 4th who you can put in the game?
5.
How many do you have?
6 or 7.
What's the cap of who will play? I mean, if you've got 7, will they all play, or are you just going to
we can find we can find roles for them. That's the key thing, is they have to understand, like, whether it be in the NFL or be in the SEC, like, you have to play special teams. So if you play a little bit and you don't do anything on special teams, you're probably not going to go to the game. If you play a little bit and you're a key factor in special teams, then you're going to go to a game and we're going to find you a role. But you need 5 solid guys along with your tight ends and your running backs to be able to execute. I think this offense at the level it needs to be.
Marcus, and 5 or 6 players in the last week or so have come in here and said Juju McDowell is someone who has stood out to them as far as just what he's doing and his elusiveness. What have you seen out of him, and how realistic is it that he could be someone who works into the running back room this year and makes an impact on the field for you guys?
I mean, it's crazy to say with the talent in that room that anybody could come in and fight their way up the depth chart, but I would agree he's had a tremendous camp so far. He's got to keep going and do it consistently. He's flashed. Juju's a really tough kid. South Georgia kid. They love football. I mean, his football intelligence is off the charts. I mean, I can go tell him without him even seeing. I can tell him to go start here, motion over there. Then we're going to send you a motion here. Then execute this route, and he's able to just do it. So I think he's got a chance to be a really good player. He just has to continually show up every day and do things the right way, like he's been doing. And a couple of years we'll look up and see where he is. But really fired up about him.
Wanted to ask about a couple of players specifically. First, Marshawn, was he able to participate in the scrimmage on Saturday?
Marshawn, yeah.
How does he look? Just kind of taking contact again, and the confidence level in that knee coming back.
Well, that was the first, and I didn't realize that was the first live contact he had in college, and so I didn't really. I wish I'd have known. I'd have made sure, from a psyche standpoint, he was good to go. But I think he was. I mean, he was flashing, got some carries, caught the ball out of the backfield. When he gets an open space, man, he can roll, and he was fun to watch, good to see, and I think he keeps getting more confidence, each day.
And Amarian Brown also, haven't heard his name a whole lot come out of camp. What's he been like? How's he made the adjustment into your offense?
He was out there today. He was I can't remember how many he had to, because of some of the COVID protocols and stuff. He didn't get to start practice with us, so he missed a gap there. And I think he's getting back in now and he's getting implemented with the guys, but he's just fighting his way back up. He's got speed. He knows how to line up. Where he's dependable, and he's just fighting right now. But he's got a chance. He made a couple good plays out there today in 2 minutes.
Marcus, you went to ETSU with Jamie Chadwell, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What was he like back then, and what do you think about his progress in the coaching ranks?
He was just a very solid, phenomenal human being first, and very dependable, a guy that everybody kind of was attracted to. Like, he was there. Like, if you needed anything, he was going to make sure. He was a quarterback. He was going to make sure that you had it, just from the organization of 7-on-7s, throwing the football, accountability. He was always the guy. He was phenomenal. He's a coach's kid, and you knew he was going to be a great coach from that point on. And what he's done has just been phenomenal. But it's not shocking.
Yeah, hey, Coach. A writer for one of the websites that covers the team wrote this morning that according to a source who was at the scrimmage, he described the offense as being really bad in the scrimmage. Of course, a lot of fans read that and wonder about, the offense. Would you describe it that way in terms of the performance of the offense in the scrimmage?
I would say other than, third down segment in the scrimmage, it was probably not one that we would like to revisit and live through again. It wasn't great. It was just, I think it was a bunch of guys coming off of finding out Luke wasn't there that day, emotionally trying to figure out where everybody was, what we were going to do. I think that we struggled a little bit, but I've been on a lot of really good offenses that the first scrimmage of the fall, they got their butts kicked by the defense, and then they got to come back to second scrimmage and see if they can get a little bit better. And that's where we are right now.
Marcus, so with the quarterback situation again, is this a case of as soon as Luke's better, it's his job again? I mean, is whoever gets the start on the fourth or beyond, is they just kind of keeping the job warm for Luke, or is it going to be in reopened competition?
I mean, I have no clue. Like, one, I don't really know truly when Luke is coming back, and then you don't know, like, where are you as a state of the team at that point. So you definitely don't want to promise anything to anybody. You just take it day by day. I know that's a frustrating answer, but you really just have to take it day by day and see what's happening.
Marcus, how important is quarterback mobility in your offense and what you want to do?
It's huge. I mean, if you're not mobile, you better be able to stand back there and fire that thing, and you better be able to protect. And in this league, it's hard to protect these guys that you're blocking consistently. So you got to have a chance to escape and create all schedule plays. So, the better quarterbacks in the world right now have mobility. You don't see a lot of them that just kind of sit back there and throw the ball anymore.
I guess you mentioned not knowing when Luke's going to be back. Do you guys have a clear picture of when that prognosis is going to come out? Is that just going to be when he gets out of the cast and you're able to kind of see that foot out of there?
I'm guessing. Like, I know you think I'm just trying to hide. I have no idea. I go to the staff meeting this afternoon. I get the report from Clint, and it tells me what's going on. And so until that changes, it's just day to day.
Marcus, has practicing and executing the vertical passing game, has that been hindered at all with the current quarterback situation?
No, not really. Hit some, we were able to execute some stuff today, and we're keep on pushing. Like, it's not been elite yet. I mean, we're continuing to build up and build up and build up. So, we've not slowed down any installation because we don't have Luke.
How will you get the plays in? How will you communicate the plays? Are you a big board with goofy pictures guys? Are you a hand signal guy? Have you given much thought to?
We do it like, again, I promise, I got to play golf with you, so you can trust me, right? Like, I'm not just saying this, like, we do it all. Like, we don't have the big silly boards. I'm not doing that. But, like, we can use a wristband if we need to. We have different hand signals we can use. We can just have signals for one words that we can use. So we're going to implement every tempo known to man. And so we got different various ways, whether it be signals or wristbands, that we can get the plays in.
Every few years, it feels like we hear some group saying, why don't we just put a radio in the helmet like they do in the NFL? You just came from there. Do you see any real value in that? Would you be a proponent?
I would definitely be a proponent. I think there's tremendous value in it.
Which is what beyond just? I mean, does it make the game better?
Just for a coach, just to communicate up until 15 seconds on the game clock. So I mean, you get to play in, you get it called, you get up line of scrimmage. You're in the kid's ear. You're talking to him up until 15 seconds when it shuts off. Now I don't know what the rules would be in college, but so just to be able to help your quarterback and the communication, and there's things that you can't signal that you can tell him, like, hey, we're going to run play A. Make sure you check that weak side corner. If he's off, make sure you're able to give that stuff to him while you give the play. So I think it would be great for offensive guys. I know defensive guys would hate it because they can't steal signals and things like that. There wouldn't be any more signaling.
How good do you feel about your starting offensive line, and are there any other guys beyond that five who, when we've been out there, it seems like it's the same group? Who else is sort of working in the mix behind them?
I feel really good about the five, and I think there's two or three more that we feel very comfortable of going in and not flinching when they do go in. again, we got to be more consistent globally offensively, but that's the one group that I think we're leaning on, and that's kind of the weird, after the scrimmage on Saturday, it's just weird for them. They're not used to being the guys that have to control the attitude of the team. And so, again, they've taken a huge step these last 4 days of doing that.
Marcus, what's the latest you can share with us on Kevin Harris's status?
He was down there with me and Luke eating a while ago. He's smiling. He's like, I'm ready to go. I'm just waiting for sitting on ready or whatever it is, waiting on go, whatever that saying is. But he's got a great smile on his face, and he's working. He said he's working Sunday to Monday to get back, and he can't wait.
And a quick follow-up to that, you kind of talked a little bit about maybe rushing Marshawn. You didn't realize it was his first contact in college. When Kevin does get back, do you anticipate kind of having to ease him back into that, contact and physicality and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, he's not practiced yet, so, I mean, we're not just going to throw him out there and go get it. Like, we're going to have to make sure from a conditioning standpoint, increase his reps daily till he gets to a point where he gets in shape and he's physically ready to go out there. But that's a good problem to have when you talk about having that many backs. And just now it's just a matter of getting them on the field.
Yeah, I think Zaquandre had some ball security issues last year. How have you seen him improve in that area? Is that something where he still needs to progress?
He has done a really nice job this training camp. I think he's only had one fumble the entire time, and it was after Coach Hardesty was bragging on him. Like at any time in the world that you say something, right, you jinx it. That's why I'm knocking on the Coach Hardesty was bragging on him, and then that day he actually had his only fumble of training camp, which – he touches it a lot every day in practice. So to only have one right now, he's made tremendous progress.
Coach, you talked about the offense from like a global standpoint, but what is that process like of kind of taking the big picture, and how much do you sort of cut it down once you start talking about getting into a game week here pretty soon?
Oh, a ton. Yeah, and we've already started chunking it, cutting it, daily moving into this Saturday scrimmage. But when you get into a game week, I mean, it's going to be what we can do and what fits the defense that we're getting ready to play.
What have you seen from the tight end position? Who are some of the guys that have been standing out to you through the first couple of weeks?
I mean, that position works really hard. I think, someone mentioned E.J. Jenkins. Like E.J. Jenkins, after about 5 practices, I realized, like, I got to make sure that he's able to move and we can utilize him. And so we don't really have a name for what he's kind of a receiver and he's kind of a tight end. So we've made some personnel groupings to make sure that he's in certain situations to utilize his frame and size. Jaheim Bell is he's got a chance to be a really special player at multiple positions. He is a tight end, but he can play a little bit everywhere. Nick Muse is the consistency, toughness, competitive, very smart, making plays out there every single day. Kevion Mullins, young guy that hadn't seen a lot of action, is just so super athletic and has a tremendous ceiling. And Coach Kimbrey has done a nice job of every single day grinding him out to make sure that he reaches his potential this year and make sure that we get him on the field in some way this year because he's special athletically.
I wanted to follow up on EJ. Just how can he help impact this offense? What kind of situations can you put him into to really?
I mean, he can play any situation. I mean, we're not going to put him, against a 275-pound 5 technique and expect him to win every time. But I mean, he can do a little bit at the line of scrimmage, in the box with certain plays, and he can get out, split out wide and use his size. And we just have to get a couple plays a game to where we can, create mismatches with him versus different body types and positions and utilize him in that manner.